They say the universe doesn't play dice, but most people do, with their time, their talent, their destiny, rolling the bones every morning, hoping life gives them a better hand. But the 1%, they don't hope. They create. They don't react. They construct. While the world waits for the stars to align, they become the gravitational force that bends reality in their favor. You want to know what separates the few who ascend from the many who settle? It's not luck. It's not lineage. It's not even intelligence. It's how they think. Because thoughts are not passive. Thoughts are blueprints. And the moment you understand this, deeply, viscerally, you stop living like a leaf in the wind and start becoming the storm that carves valleys through mountains. Einstein once said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." Why? Because knowledge is what is. Imagination is what could be. And the 1%, they live in what could be. While others are prisoners of past data and predictable outcomes, the few dare to imagine an outcome so bold, so unorthodox, it terrifies mediocrity. And then they make it real. This is not a speech for those who want motivation. This is for those who crave awakening. This is a message for the few who feel the burning pulse of potential inside their chest, who know there's something more, but haven't yet been shown how to access it. So listen closely, not with your ears, but with your spirit. Because if you truly absorb what's coming next, the old you won't survive it. Everything begins in the mind. Every revolution, every invention, every billion-dollar empire, and every catastrophic downfall. Before it happened in the world, it happened in someone's head. And most people, they don't own their minds. They lease them out to fear, to comfort, to doubt, to social approval. They let society program them, like machines running outdated software, never realizing they can upgrade the operating system. But the 1%, they take control of their operating system. They rewire it. They feed it clarity. They delete limitations. They understand that mindset isn't positive thinking. It's framework engineering. It's designing a mental architecture so unshakable that nothing external can break it. Einstein shattered traditional thinking, not because he had all the answers, but because he asked deeper questions. He saw what others saw, but thought what others didn't dare. That's mindset mastery. And that's what the 1% embody daily. They don't say, "I'll try." They say, "I will." They don't think, "Is this possible?" They think, "What must I become to make it inevitable?" Because the truth is, your outer world will never exceed the quality of your inner programming. You can't out-earn your self-image. You can't outperform your internal beliefs. So if you want to rise, it begins by tearing down the old scripts, playing on repeat in your mind. The ones whispering that you're not ready, not worthy, not enough. Burn those lies. Because the 1% did. They replaced them with a new script. One written in certainty, in discipline, in unshakable faith in their vision. Belief is the fuel of all creation. Without it, even genius collapses. With it, even the underestimated rise. Think of Edison. He failed over 10,000 times before the light bulb finally ignited. Most people would have stopped after 10, 100, maybe even 1. But he believed, so he persisted. Because belief turns failure into feedback, delay into direction. 1% know this. They walk through doors that haven't been built yet. They act before they're ready. They trust their inner compass even when the world mocks them, doubts them, warns them to be realistic. But here's the truth no one tells you. Realism is just fear wearing a suit. The masses worship the altar of what's been proven. The few, they worship what's possible. Einstein was a patent clerk when he rewrote physics. No laboratory, no team of researchers, just his mind and a belief so powerful it redefined the universe. That's what belief does. It makes the invisible visible. So the question is not, what do you want? The question is, do you believe you're the one meant to achieve it? Because if belief is weak, every setback becomes a signal to quit. But when belief is strong, setbacks become signals to build. The 1% don't wait for external permission. They don't need applause. They decide, and that decision births a fire that no amount of rejection can extinguish. Clarity is the antidote to chaos. While the masses drown in distractions consumed by noise, the 1% operate like lasers, focused, directed, lethal in their intention. Most people want more money, more freedom, more success, but they don't know why. They chase shiny objects, they follow trends, they confuse motion for meaning. But the 1%, they know exactly what they're building, and more importantly, who they're becoming. They don't run faster on the hamster wheel. They step off, build a vehicle, and choose the destination. Clarity doesn't mean having all the answers. It means knowing what questions matter. Einstein once said, "If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions." The world rushes to solve without thinking. The few think with such intensity, the solution reveals itself. You must get clear on your vision, not vague goals. Crystal clarity. Where are you going? Why are you going? Who must you become to get there? Because if you're unclear, if your purpose is foggy, every detour will look like a path. Every temptation will feel like a strategy. And you will burn years chasing what was never meant for you. But with clarity, you become a force of nature. You move through life not wondering if you'll arrive, but deciding when. Walt Disney saw an empire of dreams while the world laughed at a mouse. Henry Ford envisioned a future where every family had a car, when horses were still the standard. They were called crazy, until the world caught up. Vision isn't about seeing what is. It's about seeing what must be, and then bending your life into alignment with that future. But here's the trap. Most people confuse vision with fantasy. Vision without discipline is a delusion. But vision with discipline, that's the foundation of legacy. Einstein didn't merely understand relativity, he saw it, years before the math confirmed it. Because vision always arrives before validation. The 1% live in that tension, between now and next, between proof and possibility. And they walk that line with faith, with ferocity, with focus. So if your vision doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. And if it doesn't make people uncomfortable, you're still thinking like the 99%. The world doesn't bend for those who wish. It bends for those who work. You can have vision, you can have belief, but if you do not have discipline, it dies in the soil. Dreams rot when they're not watered with action. The 1% understand this with bone-deep clarity. Discipline is the doorway from imagination to incarnation. Discipline is not about punishment. It's not restriction. It's liberation. It is the daily commitment to becoming the version of yourself who can hold the future you crave. It is choosing consistency over comfort, direction over distraction. It is doing what must be done, especially when the feeling is gone. You think the greats wake up inspired every day? You think Einstein felt like wrestling with the mysteries of the cosmos every morning? number. But he showed up. He sat down. He worked the equation anyway, because mastery is not built in bursts. It is built in the monotony, in the silence, in the daily return to the craft no one applauds. The 1% don't rely on motivation. They rely on rituals, on process, on systems. They have trained their nervous system to find peace in repetition, because they know success is not sexy. It's built in the quiet corners of days that feel invisible. You want to join them? Then kill the addiction to hype. Kill the obsession with instant results. Replace it with something sacred, the daily return to your higher path, no matter what mood, what excuse, what voice tries to pull you off course. That's the war. Not against the world, not against other people, against the parts of yourself that still cling to comfort, that still crave ease, that still want the rewards without the rituals. The 1% win that war every morning, and you can too. But discipline is not enough without action. The world is filled with dreamers who journal, who meditate, who read 100 books and never move. Information is not transformation. 1% understand this, so they act relentlessly, imperfectly, but decisively. They don't wait to feel ready. They don't wait for the plan to be perfect. They move. They build while bleeding. They learn while launching. Because the cost of waiting is not just time, it's momentum. And momentum is the oxygen of progress. When you take action, you signal to the universe, I'm ready. You speak a language more ancient than words. You become a magnet for alignment, for resources, for people, for breakthroughs, not because magic happens, but because the universe favors the mover. Einstein once said, nothing happens until something moves. That's not just physics, that's life, that's creation, that's the divine law of motion. Act first, adjust later. This is how the 1% think. And if you want to rise, you must think like them. Not once, not in rare inspired moments, but every day, until it becomes who you are. And as you act, something else awakens, a deeper strength, a force the average can't access. Gratitude, but not the passive kind, not the soft thankfulness people post online. The 1% practice active gratitude, not for what they have, but for what they've become, for the pain that shaped them, for the struggle that forged them, for the pressure that produced the diamond. Gratitude is not about settling. It's about seeing. It's about recognizing the power of the present moment, not as a consolation prize, but as the sacred soil where greatness is planted. You think Einstein didn't suffer? You think success protected him from ridicule, rejection, resistance? Number. But he was grateful, because even the opposition sharpened his resolve, even the critics clarified his convictions. The 1% understand this. Adversity is not the enemy. It is the architect of resilience, and resilience is the final test. It's easy to believe when the path is clear, easy to act when results pour in. But what about when you give everything and still fall short? What about when the doors slam? When the storms come? When everything you built starts to shake? That's where the 99% retreat. They say, maybe I'm not cut out for this. They shrink, they crumble, but the 1%, they rise, bloodied, bruised, but unbroken. They understand what Einstein meant when he said, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. They live that truth. While others curse the chaos, they find the pattern. While others scream at the darkness, they become the light. You want to rise? Then you must make a decision. Will you be the kind of person who only works when it's easy? or the kind who builds anyway. Because when it feels like it's all falling apart, that's often the moment right before the breakthrough. The moment the universe strips away everything shallow, so only the essential remains. So only the real ones rise. Adaptability is how the 1% survive the fire. They don't cling to how it should be. They evolve, they shift, they adjust their methods, but not their mission. They stay loyal to the why, but flexible with the how, because nothing in this universe is static. Everything shifts, seasons change, markets crash, people leave, and if you cannot bend, you will break. But those who bend, those who study the wind instead of cursing it, they sail forward while the rest drown. Einstein evolved constantly. His theories were not written in stone. He questioned even his own work. Because truth is not a destination, it's a horizon. And only those humble enough to keep learning ever reach it. That is the next great power of the 1%. They are learners, not just in books, but in life, in pain, in failure. They extract meaning from every moment. They study themselves more than they study others. They refine, revise, reinvent. Because growth is not a phase, it's their identity. You want to join them? Then make mastery your religion. Make reflection your fuel. Make feedback your compass. And most of all, make becoming your obsession. Because that's what this life is really about. Not achieving. Becoming, not collecting, creating, not impressing, impacting. And the 1% know this in their bones. They live not to be remembered, but to be felt. To make such a dent in the universe that long after they are gone, the echo of their courage still moves the world forward. You were not born for survival. You were born for significance. And the only thing standing between who you are and who you must become is whether or not you will think like the 1%. If you're still here, if something inside you is still listening, then that voice inside you, the one you've tried to silence with distraction, the one that whispers more is possible, it's right. You were never meant to play small. You were never meant to die with your greatness buried beneath fear. Because the truth is, you are already chosen, not by the world, not by fate, but by that fire inside your soul that refuses to go out, no matter how long you've ignored it. You feel it when you're alone, in the silence. That ache, that knowing, that's not ego, that's destiny. The 1% didn't get there because they were born with it. They got there because they answered it. Because when life whispered, "Rise," they roared back, "Watch me." They refused the script written for them by mediocrity. They refused the limitations handed down by scared men and small minds. And they chose to write a new story, one built in sweat, in sacrifice, in relentless self-responsibility. And now, it's your turn. But here's the truth no one wants to say. It will hurt. This path, it's not glamorous, it's not quick, it's not filled with likes or applause. It's filled with nights alone, with failures so brutal they crack your identity, with days where your own mind turns on you and tells you to quit. But on the other side of that is everything. On the other side of pain is pride. On the other side of fear is freedom. On the other side of discipline is destiny. This world is not starving for more talent. It's starving for more deciders. More people who choose to rise. Not once, not twice, but every damn day. Especially when it's hard. Especially when no one's watching. Especially when quitting would be easier. And if you decide today, really decide, then you don't just change your path. You change your bloodline. You break the patterns. You become the first, the one they'll talk about, the one who shattered the ceiling and showed the rest what was possible. Because that's the quiet mission of the 1%. It's not about having more, it's about becoming more, so you can give more, serve more, be more for the people who don't yet believe it's possible for them. You become the lighthouse, the signal fire in the storm, the reminder that one person, lit from within, can ignite 1,000 others. And maybe that's why you felt so lost before. Because you weren't meant to follow the map. You were meant to draw it. You weren't born to follow the rules of this world. You were born to bend them, to question them, to challenge them until the walls fall and a new path emerges. Just like Einstein, just like Edison, just like every soul who stood at the edge of what was known and leapt into the impossible. They weren't gods. They weren't chosen by the stars. They were hungry. They were awake. They were willing to suffer for something greater than themselves. And now it's your turn to step into that lineage, to become the anomaly, to stop waiting for a sign and be the sign. You've wasted enough time second-guessing yourself. You've played the background long enough. This is not the rehearsal. This is your life. This is the moment that divides the old you from the real you. So ask yourself, how much longer will you dim your light to make others comfortable? How much longer will you apologize for your ambition? How much longer will you pretend you don't hear the call? Because the call will not wait forever. You will either rise with it or be buried beneath the weight of what you could have been. That's the real regret. Not failure, not loss, potential unexpressed. So don't you dare die with your greatness inside you. Don't you dare let fear be louder than your purpose. Don't you dare end this journey as a shadow when you were born to be a sun. Because this is how the 1% think. They don't see the world as it is. They see the world as malleable. They don't hope for change. They are the change. They don't chase certainty. They chase growth. They don't fear being alone. They fear being average. They don't count the cost. They pay it. And when the world says, be realistic, they say, I didn't come here to be realistic. I came here to be legendary. So stop chasing permission. Stop waiting for the fear to go away. You move with it. You move through it. You make fear your witness, not your warden. And you take that next step, no matter how heavy it feels. Because the truth is, the 1% are not some distant elite. They are simply those who decided, and you can too, right now, this breath, this moment. This is where you stop thinking like the 99% and start becoming one of the few who change the world. So rise, and don't just rise, ascend.